Your brain is committing fraud against your future every single day, and you're the one signing the checks. Scientists have proven that you possess the same neural equipment as Einstein, Tesla, and every genius who ever lived. Yet you've convinced yourself that some people are just naturally smart, while you're destined for average. That's not humility, that's intellectual cowardice. You're literally choosing to run mental software from the Stone Age while living in the space age. Every time you say, I can't, or I'm not good at, you're installing malware that crashes your cognitive operating system. The tragedy isn't that you lack capacity. It's that you've become comfortable with mediocrity, addicted to excuses, and allergic to the discomfort of growth. While you're reading self-help books and watching motivational videos, someone else is actually rewiring their brain and making you obsolete. Stop treating your mind like a museum of past failures and start treating it like the supercomputer it was designed to be. Your brain is the most sophisticated piece of technology that has ever existed. Yet, you're running it like a calculator when it's designed to be a supercomputer. Every single person in this room is walking around with approximately 86 billion neurons firing in their head, creating more connections than there are stars in the galaxy. And you're telling me you can't learn that new skill, start that business, or solve that problem. I met a woman last year who changed my entire perspective on human potential. She was a cleaning lady at IBM headquarters for 15 years. Every night, while she mopped floors and emptied trash cans, she would study the whiteboards in the conference rooms. She couldn't understand the complex algorithms and programming languages at first, but something inside her refused to accept that limitation. This woman, with no formal education beyond high school, began teaching herself programming by observing patterns, asking questions to anyone who would listen, and spending her breaks in the company library. Within 3 years, she had memorized the entire corporate database structure. Not because she had a photographic memory, not because she was some hidden genius, but because she understood something that most people miss. Your brain doesn't care about your job title, your education level, or what society says you're capable of. It only cares about what you demand from it. Scientists tell us that the average human being uses less than 10% of their brain's actual capacity. Think about that for a moment. You have a Ferrari engine under your hood, and you're driving it like a golf cart. You possess the same basic neural equipment that Einstein had, that Tesla had, that every great thinker in history had. Yet you've accepted the lie that some people are just born smarter. The greatest tragedy in human history isn't war, isn't poverty, isn't disease. It's the untapped potential that gets buried every day. I've walked through cemeteries and realized I'm not just looking at graves. I'm looking at buried dreams, unwritten books, uninvented technologies, and unsolved problems. Every person who dies without maximizing their mental capacity takes a piece of human advancement with them. Your brain right now is performing about 38,000 trillion operations per second. Let me say that again. 38,000 trillion operations per second. It's regulating your heartbeat, processing visual information, storing memories, generating thoughts, and managing thousands of bodily functions simultaneously. And you think you can't handle one more project? You think you've reached your learning limit? That cleaning lady I mentioned, she now heads the cybersecurity division at that same company. She didn't get there through luck or favoritism. She got there because she refused to let her circumstances define her capacity. While others were sleeping, she was strengthening neural pathways. While others were complaining about their limitations, she was pushing past hers. The most dangerous lie you'll ever believe is that your brain has fixed limitations. Every time you say, I'm not good at math, or I can't learn languages, or I'm not creative, you're installing software that limits your hardware. Your brain doesn't know the difference between what's true and what you tell it repeatedly. It simply responds to the programs you install. I've studied successful people for decades. And I found one common denominator. They all treat their brain like a muscle that needs constant exercise. They understand that mental capacity isn't inherited, it's developed. They know that the gap between average and extraordinary isn't talent. It's the willingness to demand more from the organ between their ears right now, as you're listening to me. Your brain is literally rewiring itself. New neural connections are forming based on this information. That's the power you carry with you every moment of every day. The ability to physically transform your brain structure through thought and action. Yet most people treat their mind like a storage unit instead of a processing plant. They fill it with entertainment and distractions instead of challenges and growth opportunities. Every genius you've ever admired started with the same basic equipment you have. The difference wasn't in their initial capacity. It was in their willingness to expand it. They understood that the brain doesn't grow from comfort. It grows from challenge. They knew that every problem solved creates capacity for bigger problems. Every skill mastered creates room for more complex skills. You're not competing against geniuses. You're competing against your own willingness to remain average. The moment you decide to overclock your brain, to push it beyond its current operating system, is the moment you join the ranks of those who refuse to die with their greatest gifts still wrapped up inside them. Let me tell you about Maria. She arrived in New York City from Guatemala with nothing but the clothes on her back and a burning desire to provide for her children. She spoke no English, had no formal education, and worked 3 jobs just to survive. But Maria understood something that most people with multiple degrees don't grasp. Your brain is a genius factory, constantly ready to produce brilliance if you give it the right raw materials. Within 2 years, Maria had learned not just English, but 7 languages. How? Because she worked in a hospital where patients spoke different languages. And instead of seeing this as an obstacle, she saw it as an opportunity. Every foreign word was a challenge her brain eagerly accepted. While others complained about language barriers, Maria's brain was building bridges. She didn't have language learning apps or expensive courses. She had something more powerful, a brain that she refused to underestimate. And listen to me carefully. Your brain creates 100,000 new neural connections every single day. 100,000. That's 100,000 opportunities to become smarter, more capable, more innovative. But most people waste these connections on memorizing TV show plots and social media posts. You're literally choosing entertainment over enhancement, distraction over distinction. The myth of fixed intelligence is the greatest scam ever perpetrated on humanity. IQ tests don't measure your potential. They measure your current operating level. It's like measuring the speed of a car while it's in first gear and concluding that's its maximum capacity. Your intelligence isn't fixed any more than your muscles are fixed. Stop believing the lie that some people are just naturally smart. I grew up being told I was average. Teachers labeled me. Standardized tests categorized me. And society tried to box me into their limited expectations. But something inside me rejected these labels. I discovered that my brain didn't care about test scores. It cared about stimulation. The more I fed it, the more it grew. The more I challenged it, the more it expanded. Here's what science has discovered. Your environment literally shapes your brain. Every book you read, every conversation you have, every problem you solve is physically restructuring your neural networks. You're not stuck with the brain you were born with. You're constantly building the brain you will have tomorrow. The question is, are you building a mansion or a shack? I met a neuroscientist who showed me brain scans of people before and after learning new skills. The differences were staggering. A taxi driver's brain showed enlarged areas related to spatial navigation. A pianist's brain had expanded regions controlling finger movement. A mathematician's brain displayed enhanced areas for abstract thinking. These weren't genetic gifts, they were developed capacities. The principle of neuroplasticity means your brain is constantly adapting, constantly evolving. constantly ready to upgrade itself. Age doesn't matter. Background doesn't matter. Current circumstances don't matter. What matters is your willingness to give your brain what it needs to transform. Every genius you know is simply someone who discovered their brain's factory settings and decided to override them. Einstein wasn't born understanding relativity. He developed the neural pathways to comprehend it. Mozart wasn't born playing symphonies. He built the connections that made composition possible. These weren't miracles. They were methodical developments of latent capacity. Your brain is producing genius-level insights right now, but you're not listening. You've been programmed to doubt yourself, to question your abilities, to accept limitations that don't exist. Every time you say, I can't, you're shutting down production in your genius factory. Every time you avoid challenges, you're laying off neural workers. The most successful people I know treat their brain like a business. They invest in it, they maintain it, they expand it, and they demand returns from it. They understand that neural real estate is the most valuable property they'll ever own. While others are decorating their limitations, these people are demolishing walls and building skyscrapers. Maria, the woman who learned 7 languages, she now runs the hospital's translation department and has written 3 books on language acquisition. She didn't just learn languages. She learned how to learn. She discovered that her brain was a pattern recognition machine, constantly looking for connections and similarities. What seemed impossible to others was simply another production run in her genius factory. You have the same factory, you have the same production capacity. The only difference between you and any genius you admire is that they've turned their factory on and you're still looking for the switch. Well, let me tell you where it is. It's in your decision to stop accepting average, to stop believing in limitations, to stop treating your brain like a warehouse when it's designed to be a production facility. Every morning, you wake up with billions of neurons ready to create new pathways, solve new problems, and generate new ideas. The question isn't whether you have genius capacity. You do. The question is whether you'll access it or let another day pass with your factory running at minimum capacity. Your brain doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't care about your past failures. It doesn't care about what others say you can't do. It only cares about what you demand from it. And every demand you make is answered with new neural connections, new capacities, new possibilities. The genius factory inside you is open for business 24 hours. There's a man in London who spent 20 years driving a cab through the maze of city streets, believing he'd reached his mental peak. Then at age 45, something shifted. He entered the World Memory Championships, and within 18 months, he could memorize a deck of cards in under 30 seconds. The same brain that struggled to remember his grocery list was now performing feats that seemed superhuman. What changed? He learned to remove the speed limits from his mind. Your brain operates at the speed you allow it to operate. Most people are driving their mental Ferrari in school zones because someone once told them to slow down. Be careful. Don't push too hard. But here's what neuroscience reveals. Your brain processes information at speeds approaching 120 meters per second. That's faster than a Formula One race car. Yet you're operating at bicycle speed because you believe that's your limit. The science of mental acceleration isn't complicated. Every thought you think travels along neural pathways. The more you use a pathway, the faster it becomes. It's like creating a highway where there was once a dirt road. Olympic athletes know this. They practice movements until they become automatic, until their brain-body connection operates at light speed. You can do the same with any mental skill. I studied a chess grandmaster who could play 30 games simultaneously while blindfolded. When they scanned his brain, they found he wasn't using more of it than average players. He was using it more efficiently. His neural highways were so well developed that what took others minutes to process, he completed in seconds. Speed isn't about natural talent. It's about neural optimization. Here's the truth. Your beliefs create biological boundaries. When you believe you're slow at math, your brain literally slows down its mathematical processing. When you believe you can't learn quickly, your neural pathways constrict. Your thoughts become your biology. The 4-minute mile was considered physically impossible until Roger Bannister broke it. Within 1 year, 24 other runners did the same. The barrier wasn't physical, it was mental. Focus, repetition is the key to breaking these barriers. Every time you practice a skill with intense focus, you're laying down myelin with a substance that insulates neural pathways and increases transmission speed by up to 100 times. 100 times. That means what once took you an hour to process could take 36 seconds. But most people practice with divided attention, building slow, inefficient pathways. The cab driver who became a memory champion discovered something profound. He realized that his brain wasn't slow, it was untrained. He began creating mental palaces, associating information with vivid images, building superhighways where there were once footpaths. Within months, he was remembering entire phone books. The same brain that forgot anniversaries was now a supercomputer. Creating new neural highways requires deliberate practice, not just repetition, but focused, intentional repetition. When you study something, eliminate all distractions. When you practice a skill, demand perfection from yourself. Your brain responds to intensity, not duration. 10 minutes of focused practice builds faster pathways than 2 hours of casual effort. I've watched people transform their processing speed in weeks, not years. A student who couldn't solve basic equations became a mathematics tutor after learning to accelerate his neural pathways. A woman who claimed she couldn't learn languages became fluent in Spanish in 90 days by optimizing her brain's pattern recognition speed. These aren't miracles, they're the natural result of removing artificial speed limits. Your brain is constantly adapting to your demands. If you demand speed, it delivers speed. If you accept slowness, it provides slowness. The choice is always yours. Every expert was once a beginner who refused to accept beginner's pace. Every genius was once average but demanded above average performance from their neural networks. The relationship between belief and biology is absolute. When you believe, you can learn faster, process quicker, and understand deeper. Your brain restructures itself to meet these expectations. Neural pathways that once crawled begin to sprint. Connections that once took seconds happen in milliseconds. You literally become what you believe about your capability. Stop accepting mental speed limits imposed by past experiences, failed attempts, or other people's opinions. Your brain hasn't slowed down with age. You've slowed down your demands on it. The moment you decide to accelerate, to push past comfortable processing speeds, is the moment your brain begins building the superhighways that separate ordinary from extraordinary. That cab driver, he now teaches memory techniques to Silicon Valley executives. He didn't find a new brain, he found new speeds for the one he always had. I knew a factory worker named James who spent 30 years operating the same machine, watching the same repetitive motions day after day. But James had eyes that saw what others missed. While his co-workers saw monotony, he saw inefficiency. While they saw routine, he saw opportunity. In his spare time, using cardboard and spare parts, he designed a revolutionary modification that increased production speed by 400%. The same mind that people assumed was limited by his blue-collar job had engineered a solution that million-dollar consultants had missed. Building systematic thinking patterns isn't about education level or job title. It's about training your brain to see patterns, connections, and possibilities where others see only surface-level information. James understood that excellence isn't an accident, It's an architecture you build thought by thought, decision by decision. Your brain thrives on systems. Every time you create a mental framework, you're building scaffolding that allows you to reach higher levels of understanding. Professional athletes don't just practice randomly. They follow systematic training programs that build on previous gains. Your mind needs the same architectural approach. When you organize your thoughts systematically, you multiply your mental power exponentially. The compound effect of daily mental exercise is staggering. If you improve your mental capacity by just 1% each day, in 1 year, you're not 365% better, you're 3.7% better. That's the power of compounding. But most people treat their brain like a light switch on or off, instead of a muscle that grows stronger with each rep. James spent 15 minutes every day sketching improvements, asking questions, challenging assumptions. Those 15 minutes compounded into innovation that transformed an entire production line. Here's what fascinates me about pressure and mental development. Diamonds form under pressure, and so do extraordinary minds. When you put healthy pressure on your brain, when you give it deadlines and challenges that stretch its current capacity, you force it to create new neural pathways. Comfort creates stagnation. Pressure creates progress. The most successful people I know deliberately put themselves in situations that demand mental growth. The relationship between physical and mental stamina is inseparable. Your brain consumes 20% of your body's energy, despite being only 2% of your body weight. When you improve your physical fitness, you're literally increasing your brain's energy supply. James didn't just exercise his mind, he maintained his body like an athlete. He understood that mental architecture requires a strong foundation. Every breakthrough in human history came from someone who built better mental architecture than their peers. They didn't have different brains, they had different blueprints. While others were building mental shacks, they were constructing cathedrals. They understood that systematic thinking isn't a gift, it's a discipline. It's the daily practice of organizing thoughts, questioning assumptions, and building connections between seemingly unrelated ideas. The architecture of excellence has 3 pillars: observation, analysis, and innovation. James observed every detail of that machine's operation. He analyzed why it functioned the way it did. Then he innovated solutions others couldn't see. This isn't genius, it's method. It's the systematic application of mental tools that anyone can develop. And when you build proper mental architecture, problems become puzzles, obstacles become opportunities, and limitations become launching pads. You stop seeing individual trees and start seeing the forest, the ecosystem, the entire landscape of possibility. James now owns a consulting firm that helps Fortune 500 companies optimize their operations. He didn't change careers, he changed his mental architecture. The tools for building this architecture are available to everyone. Focused attention, systematic practice, and relentless curiosity. But most people would rather complain about their limitations than construct solutions. They'd rather accept average than architect excellence. The choice between mediocrity and mastery isn't made in grand moments. It's made in the daily decision to build rather than drift, to construct rather than complain, to architect rather than accept. Your mind is waiting for blueprints. The question is, what are you willing to build? I'll never forget meeting Dorothy, 70 years old, recently widowed, living on Social Security, and most people would say her productive years were behind her. But Dorothy had been watching cooking shows for decades, taking notes, experimenting with recipes, and developing something extraordinary in her kitchen. At an age when society expected her to slow down, she decided to speed up. She took her grandmother's sauce recipe, refined it over 3 months, and launched a food company from her apartment. Today, Dorothy's products are in over 2 stores nationwide. She didn't just start a business. She started a revolution in her own mind. She proved that your personal revolution doesn't depend on your age, your circumstances, or your resources. It depends on one decision. The decision to stop accepting what is and start creating what could be. The decision point that changes everything isn't dramatic. It's not announced with fanfare or accompanied by lightning bolts. It's the quiet moment when you finally say enough. Enough mediocrity. Enough excuses. Enough living below your capacity. Dorothy reached that point while watching her friends discuss their ailments and limitations. She realized she had a choice: join the conversation about decline or start one about possibility. Creating your mental training routine doesn't require expensive programs or complex systems. Dorothy started with 15 minutes each morning, writing down business ideas. Then 30 minutes each evening, researching the food industry. She turned her TV time into learning time, her kitchen into a laboratory, her limitations into launching pads. She understood that revolution begins with routine. Here's your mental training blueprint. First, dedicate the first hour of your day to mental expansion. Read something challenging, solve complex problems, learn new skills. Your brain is most receptive in the morning. Don't waste it on social media. Second, create learning triggers throughout your day. Every red light becomes a moment to practice mental math. Every waiting room becomes a classroom. Every conversation becomes an opportunity to sharpen your thinking. The ripple effect of one upgraded mind is phenomenal. When Dorothy's granddaughter saw her 70-year-old grandmother building a business, she left her dead-end job and started her own company. When Dorothy's neighbors saw her success, they began pursuing abandoned dreams. One mind operating at higher capacity creates waves that lift entire communities. You're not just changing yourself, you're changing your world. Your responsibility to maximize what you've been given isn't optional, it's obligatory. Every capacity you don't develop is a gift you've stolen from humanity. Every problem you don't solve because you didn't develop the mental tools is a contribution you've withheld. Dorothy understood this. She knew that her source recipe wasn't just about money. It was about proving that age doesn't determine capability, that circumstances don't define potential. I've watched too many people die with their music still in them, their books unwritten, their inventions uncreated, their problems unsolved. They waited for perfect conditions that never came. They waited for permission that was never required. They waited for confidence that only comes through action. Dorothy didn't wait. At 70, she declared war on her own limitations. Her brain is ready for revolution right now. Not tomorrow, not when conditions improve, not when you feel ready, now. Has been preparing for this moment your entire life, building the foundation for your breakthrough. Every experience you've had, every challenge you face, every lesson you've learned has been preparing you for the decision you're about to make. The tools are in your hands. The capacity is in your head. The potential is in your present. You don't need another degree, another year, another excuse. You need another decision. The decision to demand from your brain what Dorothy demanded from hers: excellence, innovation. Here's my challenge to you, starting today. Not tomorrow, not Monday, not January 1st, but today, begin your personal revolution. Choose one mental skill you'll develop. Set one learning goal you'll achieve. Make one commitment to your cognitive growth. Dorothy started with source. James started with sketches. Maria started with words. What will you start with? Your brain has been underperforming not because it lacks capacity, but because you lack audacity. You've been protecting it when you should be pushing it. You've been limiting it when you should be launching it. The revolution in your head is waiting for permission to begin. And only you can give it. Dorothea passed away last year at 78. but her company employs 47 people. Her products feed thousands of families. Her story inspires countless others to stop accepting and start achieving. She didn't just leave money to her grandchildren. She left them proof that revolution has no expiration date. Your personal revolution starts the moment you close your mouth about what you can't do and open your mind to what you must do. The world is waiting for what's locked inside your skull. Don't you dare take it to your grave. Start your revolution today. Your brain is ready. The question is, are you?